Okay, good morning everybody. We are going to make a clay tile of a tree. We want it to look beautiful, to make people think about life on land. But the one thing we want to remember when we're making our tile is that we give it lots of texture. That means like a bumpy or smooth or patterned surface. So the first thing I'm going to do is just dip my finger in the water and I'm going to go around and I am going to neaten the edges of this tile. That's really important because after it's been fired, if you have any kind of rough parts there, then they feel a bit rough and bumpy after they've been in the kiln, much more so than they look at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to make sure my edges are neat, a little bit of water. Then I'm going to add some texture. So I've got different tools. I could roll the rollers across to give some texture like that. I have got some lace, so maybe I want to think about how I could add texture with that. Now remember, we're going to do a tree on the tile. Maybe this lace could be like hills in the background. You can choose, and there are different types of rollers, so maybe I will use this one just to go up. Okay, so put some texture onto your tile first. Then what you're going to do is draw the outline of the tree so you know where it's going to go. So I'm just going to put 2 lines for the trunk, just lightly. Don't push in too hard. You're not trying to make a hole in your clay. You're just using this as a guideline. And 5 lines at the top to show where the main branches are going to be. Then what you're going to do is use the extra clay. You can roll it in your hand like this, or you can roll it on the board like this using your fingertips. But when you have a piece that you think is long enough for the trunk, then you can stop. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the stick again, and we're just going to score the clay. That means we're going to make this a rough surface, so when we stick the coil onto here, it's going to stick well. We're also going to use some water, remember, which is a bit like glue for clay. And the other really important thing is when we put the clay down, we're going to press. So we're going to make sure there's no air under there, which is going to make the clay come off. I just broke the end of that, so I'm actually going to put another piece that I've got next to it. Okay, this is me starting to make my trunk. I need to get another coil of clay, so I'm going to roll it in my hands first, then roll it a little bit on the board. And then I'm just going to add a bit more water because it looks like it's starting to dry out. And I'm going to put that on for my trunk. And then I'm just going to kind of squish it, fill in any little gaps, and push the clay down and make it look like a tree trunk. Okay. And then with the rest of the clay, I'm going to do the same thing for the branches. So you can do one at a time, or maybe you want to get a few coils ready. So I think I'll do 3, that might be enough for 5 branches. Oops. Okay, and then again, I'm going to put water, and I'm going to get my clay, and I'm going to look at which is the thicker end, and the thinner end is a bit thicker here, so I want that closer to the tree. Put it down, and then I'm just going to break the end, maybe bend it round a bit, so it's more like a tree. This end looks quite thick, so I'm going to put that next to the tree. Next to the trunk, sorry, break it off. This one's a little bit thinner. I think I'll put this one here. And really important, like with your trunk, that you push. Not squashing it, but pushing it so it's really joined on. Okay, so I've got 2 more to go. Again, I'm going to look at which is the thicker end. I think this one. Fill up that space. And do the same there. Okay. Now I'm going to get my fingers and just join these bits together. Because remember, it's one tree, so I want the branches to look like they're growing from the trunk. And then to make it more like a tree, I'm going to use some other coils, the bits that I have left. I'm going to roll them a bit thinner. And I'm going to add them on to look like branches, thinner branches coming off. Remember to put the water. Remember, if it's not got any water, it's not going to stick. It's going to fall off as it starts to dry. Turn that around because it's better to have a flat end. Oh, I think that's a bit long, so I can just break that off. But the bit I've broken off, I think I can use up here. Okay, so remember again, now I'm going to go around, just check that they're all stuck down. If you want to, you can make a few leaves. So I'm just going to get a bit of clay, use my fingertips to kind of make it into a leaf shape. Again, remember to add the water. I think I'll do 5 or 6 leaves just to give an idea. Okay, morning everybody. I just want to show you what I've done to your tiles before you're going to paint them. So they've come out of the kiln, they're all fired now, they're this brown terracotta colour. Now what I have here is a bowl of water and some black ink. I'm just putting everybody's tiles in, covering the ink over it. And then what happens there is the black ink will soak into all the little spaces, all inside all the texture of your tile. I'm going to prop them here to dry. And then what we're going to do next is paint them. And when they're dry, we'll paint them and they'll look something like this. And you can still see the black, and it kind of adds emphasis to the different textured parts. Hi everybody. Today we are going to put some beads onto our tile. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of wire, and I want you just to bend the end of the wire about this much, so that when you're putting the beads on, they're not going to fall off. But then you have enough left to put through the hole in your tire afterwards. So then all you're going to do is put lots of beads on. Now you can think about maybe doing a pattern. Maybe I'll do these transparent bead and then a spotty bead. Might mix up the colours. So you want to keep putting beads on until you've got quite a few on there. Okay, I'm just going to pause this for a minute. Okay, so I've put quite a lot of beads on now. If you can you see what my idea was? I've done a bit of a pattern, and what do you think I've done with the colour as well? Okay, yeah, that's right. I've chosen cool colours. I'm going to have a spotty bead, then a plain bead, spotty, then plain. So have a little think before you start of what kind of pattern you might want, and something that's going to look good with your tile. So here's my tile. So now I'm going to just check. I think that's enough beads. Okay, that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the end that I didn't fold over, I'm going to put that through my tile, through the hole. And I'm going to get to the end. And then I'm going to get a pair of scissors and just cut a little bit off if it's too long. Then I'm going to wrap the short end around the long end, like this. So I'm wrapping it around. Then if I have a little spiky bit, I want to bend that down so my beads will go over that. And then I can get the other end. Now I can unwind that bit that I wrapped, that I bent over. Go through the other hole, push it up. Again, I'm going to have a shorter end, and again I want to wrap the short end around the long end. Can bend it down a little bit, and my beads should, if I squeeze it, should fit over there. Or if that doesn't work, I can actually just cut that part off. Okay, and that is my final tile with my beads. Okay, now remember just to be a little bit careful with your tile because they will break still.